This is Mark Collins, and I'm here with BigMike from Advanced Nutrients and Constantin from DEMECAN. And here today, we're going to talk about the latest trends in Germany and how that impacts on Europe. I'm delighted to be with BigMike, who's one of the leading American companies who are operating now in Europe successfully, with operations headquartered in Barcelona, with a focus on supporting the cannabis industry across the European Union and beyond. And of course, Constantin with DEMECAN, one of the largest and most well-known German cannabis operators, focused now on the medical cannabis industry. Welcome, Constantin, and please introduce yourself. I know you have some connections to New York, and you've been to California recently too. So tell us about your journey in cannabis and about DEMECAN.
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to present myself and DEMECAN for what it's worth. So I'm a lawyer by training, and I got in touch with cannabis about like 10 years ago, maybe, when a couple of my friends approached me asking me about how the licensing system works with cannabis. Back then, I was actually working in New York for a law firm there, so I could look at what was happening and going on in the US and Canada. I understood how there the licensing system works, or let me be more modest. I had a look at it because it's really difficult to understand, and it's different from state to state, and then again it's different in Canada. But the thing is, Germany then agreed on legalizing medical cannabis in 2017. And that's when, like, my friends and me, we got together and started DEMECAN. And DEMECAN is short for Deutsches Medicinal Cannabis. So pretty much our name says what we're doing. And we applied for a cultivation license for medical cannabis. And that was a highly competitive process. Over 100 companies applied for a license, and only 3 were to be selected.
Wow.
2 of them are well-known Canadian companies, Aurora and Tilray. Back in the days, it was still Afria. And then DEMECAN was literally the only German participant that won a license. And so since 2017, well, we won the license in 2019. Since then, we are cultivating and growing medical cannabis in Germany out of our cultivation facility near Berlin. But we also like importing cannabis, doing the distribution straight to pharmacies. And we have since grown the business. And I would say we cover the entire value chain of medical cannabis in Germany. And actually, since May, also internationally, we sold our first cannabis into Switzerland. So this is really an exciting time. And I was just saying, like, this is medical cannabis, right? But April 1st, something happened in Germany, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it. Legalization is happening. So, recreational cannabis is also coming to Europe.
Wow, great. And so tell us, Mike, from your perspective as a global company and an American looking into Europe, what are you seeing now from your business point of view? You're servicing a lot of the
we're very familiar with the European marketplace. I mean, Portugal came on for kind of first with the medical and growing, then Greece, and then Germany. And what happened on April 1st? And it wasn't April Fool's Day either. This was real. It went legalized, and none of us in the entire sector were prepared for what happened. Every single hydroponic store there, they literally sold out of everything. These guys had to close. Some of them closed their doors and wouldn't even respond to us and do business because they had to process the orders. Every light was sold out. Everything that they had was sold out. We make starter kits for the home grow market, as well as we deal with the commercial and the home grower. As fast as we can make them, we're selling them by the pallets in Germany. It's the first time, I've been around in cannabis for 41 years, 25 years with Advanced Nutrients. I've never seen a feeding frenzy for cannabis in Germany anywhere else in the world. And I got a question for Constantin. What the heck is happening there? What are people thinking? Because it's just gone off the hook. And genetics, they're hungry for California genetics as well. Genetics as well. So that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But
yeah, absolutely. It was a long process, and it was a long awaited legalization. Like this April 1st, to be honest, that was supposed to happen a year ago. So everybody was really waiting for it. and everybody had their doubts as of February and March. And it was a very close call on March 22nd in our Senate to put this whole legislation on hold for at least another 6 months. So when that went through on March 22nd, and we knew legalization is coming April 1st, the night before, a crowd gathered at Brandenburg Gate and celebrated the legalization. It was a party like you'd seen when the wall came down, right? So
Wow.
this is, I think, the first time ever that people celebrated a new legislation in that way. And it was peaceful, it was fun, it was a great crowd. And yes, I mean, this celebration definitely translates into commercial numbers. And as Mike said, everything sold out. You're now allowed to cultivate your own cannabis at home, up to 3 plants, and people needed supply, and the lights were sold and grow kits were sold. And it's still, to this point, the demand is huge and everybody wants to experiment with cannabis cultivation. But also for us on the medical market, it's now easier to get a prescription because it's not a narcotic drug anymore. It's way easier to handle as a doctor. So our sales are up. The entire sales of the medical cannabis community are way up. So it's really a great time since April 1st or April 2nd, because that was strictly holiday, bank holiday, April 1st. So definitely great days. And I have to agree with Mike, we did not see that coming. It was just mind-blowing what happened on April 2nd. We planned for a growth in the market over the course of the year, Q3, Q4, 2024. Yes, something will happen. People have easier access. They will slowly start to cultivate their own cannabis. But no, people were ready. They were ready and waiting. And on April 2nd, when the stores opened, things were gone. Sold out.
It's like
I'm curious, Constantine, for the medical cannabis, what are the conditions that people can have? Is any of it has to do with pain or any of these kind of conditions? What are the conditions?
Yeah, so there's no strict list, right? So it really depends on your doctor. If your doctor thinks medical cannabis can help you, they can prescribe it. I think the condition that it's most prescribed for is all forms of pain, mostly chronic pain. The thing is, before April 1st, it was a narcotic drug, which means as a doctor, you're required to test other remedies first, which are not a narcotic drug. So this requirement, this falls away. Now a doctor, if they think it's advisable, they can move straight to cannabis, straight to medical cannabis, They even have to technically prescribe medical cannabis before they go to opioids, which are still a narcotic, right?
Really?
So from all angles, like this liberalization of the cannabis market has also affected the medical cannabis market. And I mean, we are good on stock now, but I'm waiting for the day in the next couple of weeks where we might run out of medical cannabis supply, right? So we're on the telephone with our suppliers from outside Germany. We want to, increase our own cultivation because the demand is absolutely there.
So I'm curious. You say that you import. Where are some of the places that you're going to look for? Portugal, Canada, where?
Yeah, exactly those. And then it's Colombia. We have an importer from Australia. Denmark is shipping product to Germany. To be honest, I had the feeling that the entire world is cultivating cannabis for Germany. Only the Germans were very limited in their cultivation because we had a strict quota on our own cultivation in Germany, something really unfair. But that also went away on April 2nd, April 1st. And so for DEMECAN in particular, as a German cultivator that was before limited by a quota and is now not limited anymore, we're just waiting for the permit. Next couple of weeks, that's supposed to arrive, and then we can keep growing and growing, and we'll be less dependent on imports. Although imports will still stay in the game, right?
How about Israel? You import from Israel?
No, we don't, but I know a couple of companies that import, I think, a dronabinol or like a cannabis extract from Israel.
Yeah.
Now, we're actually looking to sell into Israel, I think, because the demand is also high in Israel. So that's one of the countries, Israel, Switzerland, Poland, a couple of countries. They're also liberalizing their medical cannabis schemes and regulations. So I think it's a European trend that was kind of held back for a while. And Germany made that first step, and everybody's cheering for Germany now. And we have this massive cannabis fair coming up in Berlin over the weekend.
Oh, yeah, Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. And this is going to be the biggest Mary Jane ever. So I haven't been in the business, Mike, since 25 years, like not as long as you. It's just 10 years or so, but still the most exciting time I've ever seen.
We're going to have a nice booth there at Mary Jane, Berlin. Our team's all pumped up and ready. We don't know what's going to happen at the show. We were just talking with the sales team this morning, as a matter of fact. So it's going to be exciting to see what's happening. We even heard that they're selling genetics in gas stations there now. Gas stations, hydroponic stores. And so, of course, as a nutrient guy, I'm saying, well, okay, they're getting genetics, and they should absolutely have fertilizer and biostimulants there too. So, big opportunity for everybody who's set and poised and ready to help Germany. And you're right. I gotta say, everyone's licking their chops over Germany. I mean, you got over 80 million people, high earners. It's a great country. So it's going to be a very interesting market. What do you think recreational is going to happen there?
Yeah, so recreational, it's going to be a limited system, right? Where you have your own home cultivation, you have your own 3 plants, that's legal, and you can start a cannabis social club or cannabis club, similar to the Spanish model, or what you see in Barcelona. But again, I think there's certain momentum right now. So I've read that our Minister of Agriculture now is issuing so-called pilot projects as well. So we'll have clubs, we have our home cultivation, and we probably have in certain test regions the first commercial cultivation for recreational cannabis. So it's definitely going to be a trend.
Yeah, I'm very curious about the social clubs because I'm very familiar with Barcelona because that's where a manufacturing facility is. And they have different license for different size clubs. Some clubs have 6,000 members, some have a couple hundred members, some grow on their facilities, some don't. Well, how's that going to play out there in Germany, the social clubs?
Yeah, so that legislation is going to enter into force as of 1st of July. And it's going to be more restricted than Spain, I think. So they limit the numbers of members in a social club to 500. The clubs are not meant to consume cannabis there, but just to grow together and pick up the product, and then you consume it at home or with your friend outside the club. So it's more focused on actually cultivating cannabis together rather than consuming it together. It's a bit of an interesting model. I don't know how this will play out. What I do know is that a couple of people interested in starting a cultivation club has approached DEMECAN, asking us to help them, all the way to give them rent out the facility for them, so they can cultivate on our facility, help them with how to cultivate on a larger scale. So it's definitely interesting. A lot of people still need to learn a lot. I think the past 7 years give us quite an advantage that we've made our learnings here. But that's going to be very exciting, definitely. And there's already a couple of clubs that have started, they created legal entities. I think we'll see way over 100 clubs in Germany. Also very interesting for the entire industry.
Are they going to limit? In Spain, it's the opposite. You can go there, you can buy it, you can consume it, but you're not allowed to drive it on the road. That's illegal. But you're allowed to smoke it in your home. Go figure. So, is there a limit to how much you can buy in these social clubs and take home with you? What are the rules around that?
Yeah, that is interesting because in Germany you will not be allowed to smoke in the club, but you can smoke outside as long as you're not around children or minors, right?
Sure.
And then there is a limit. I think it's 25 grams that you can have on you, and up to 50 grams that you can have at home, right?
Okay.
But you can smoke pretty much in the park if you want. We're more liberal on consummation of drugs in the public, same with alcohol. But I've been to a couple of clubs in Barcelona during Spanibus in March. I've seen that. It's a very interesting concept. I think Germany will be more tightly regulating these clubs.
What about concentrates, vape pens, this kind of stuff?
Yeah, probably only in the medical market. Only in a medical market, I think, is the first step. We are working on concentrates. We have a DEMECAN concentrate that we've just released a couple of weeks ago. But the rest is vape cartridges. That's very restricted, very limited to flower.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where do you see the commercial market headed and going? When do you think recreational will happen, and what is that going to look like for the expansion and your competition?
Yeah, I mean, look, I like to draw the comparison between Germany and Florida, where you have a medical market only with limited licenses. But we all know that some of the medical product will end up in consumers' hands. And quite frankly, I think that's going to happen in Germany too. That is already happening in Germany. And I don't think that's the worst of things, right? You have a doctor prescribe it, you have top quality product, dispensed via pharmacy. So a lot of checks and balances in the system, and the patient/consumer gets the best product available. And now if you look at Florida and compare those numbers, 22 million people living there, what's the size of the cannabis market in Florida? Are we talking about 1.5, 2 billion US dollars? So now you look at Germany with 84 million people, right? That's 4 times the size. Currently, our medical market is around 300 million, maybe 400 millions. No exact numbers are around, but there's definitely a lot of room for expansion, right? Will it go all the way up to 8 billion US dollars? Will it stay at 4 billion? At this point, I don't care. It's definitely going to be like triple, go 5 times. It's going to be huge, right?
Yeah.
Our concern is really like, will we get the cultivation up and running? Will we get the product in the market? Can we educate the patients and consumers about good product? What is good product? Where to find it? How to handle cannabis? So education and information right now is one of the key elements of our strategy.
So basically, are the social clubs going to become your dispensaries? Because the most profitable way to do it is to grow it and then have your own dispensary. When I see those types of models, those seem to be the most profitable. And as the competition flourishes, you want to make sure that you're totally vertically integrated. Now, I know that you sell to pharmacies, but you don't own the pharmacies, which would be nice if you did, or maybe you do. I don't know. And then are these social clubs going to become dispensaries, or are they going to have a separate license for dispensaries?
No, so the social clubs here, I think commercially they will not be that relevant, right? So careful if you want to invest in a social club or somebody proposes an investment into a social club to you, right? In these model regions that we'll set up, there will be dispensaries and cultivation for these model regions, but that still needs to be designed. So that's, I would say, at least another 3 to 6 months out. But what we see is like our product is being dispensed via pharmacies. Some of them pharmacies are working online. What we do at DEMECAN is we built a platform that connects a couple of pharmacies to this platform, and we own the platform. Basically, we own the shop, the online shop, where you can go as patient, upload your prescription, and then get connected to the pharmacy that's most convenient to you, and from there you get dispensed your product, right? So you can't own a pharmacy, but we own the platform under which the pharmacies operate, right? And that's our model to make sure it's a very convenient way for our product and other people's product to get to the patient.
I got another question. I'm sorry, Mark. I'm full of questions today. And
that questions.
Yeah, taxation. One of the things that's has killed in some of the states and locations is taxation. What's ended up happening is I say the new black market is the legal market here. There's a lot of stuff going out of back doors, out of a lot of facilities, because that's the only way they can turn a profit because of taxation. So what is Germany in regards to taxation and cannabis?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good thing about a medical market. There's no extra taxation, right? We have the VAT and that's it, right?
That's amazing.
So that's great. They're probably in the model regions, they're going to experiment with that. But I think everybody's really conscious about not having too high taxes, because it's exactly the effect that you described, right? If it's too expensive, the illegal market will still thrive, right? And our primary goal is to dry up the illicit market, to allow legitimate business to flourish. That's what we want. And you can't tax people too high, right? That the product has to be still available. But it also has to be great product, right? It has to be grown well with, on great nutrients, right? So I guess that's why you will do very well, because people are now asking like for what's the differentiator, what makes a good flower, what makes a good product, and it's an interesting learning curve. I'd say like 3 years ago, everybody was going for whatever was available, and then they started to go for the highest possible THC content, and now they're learning like there's terpenes, there's other cannabinoids, there's different tastes to it, and actually this conversation that we have with the market, with the patients, is super interesting. And my co-founder Adrian, who's actually a medical doctor, he's now becoming basically a content creator on Instagram and on social media. Everybody calls him Dr. Cannabis. Like, I would say 80% of his time is now spent explaining and educating on cannabis. And that's such an interesting conversation and dialogue that we have.
I'm glad you brought that up, because quality that's what ended up happening here. People, when they first started, I call them the money guys, they come in and they just thought cannabis is cannabis. People smoke it and they get high. And I've always said that, people who are consuming cannabis, they're medicating. Look, a lot of people have had a lot of traumas in their life, and so if they're medicating with cannabis recreational, they're actually medicating, to help themselves. But quality is a huge, and then finally they figured out quality is a huge issue. Terpene production, you're going to make sure that the terpene production, if you get that to 3 to 5% total terpenes, you want your of course, people, when they buy, they're going to look at the THC and they're going to go for higher THC. But as we know, in the entourage effect, different cannabinoids affect what they're going to feel as well. So quality will become an issue. And if you go for quality in the very beginning, you're not going to have any one of these issues. One of our competitors, we just got the COAs against them. We raised THC by 46% with cereal a la mode. I'm looking right here. I got notes. Lemon cherry gelato, 32.72%, and it's our major competitor. That's a huge difference. And by the way, Cookies Maywood, that translated to an extra $5.5 million net bottom line per year. They're making an extra $1,000 per light. So it does matter. One of the biggest mistakes that I see that executives are making, they look at the nutrients and they look at the cultivation labor as just a line item. They should be bonusing their cultivators based on a metrics that makes sense. And every time that we do that, we get them to bonus the guys for, let's say, one case, they had to pay out in bonuses $18,000, but they made an extra $200,000. And so the other thing is nutrients. They're not looking at total cost of ownership, TCO. They're just looking at the front. They're not realizing. So I'd give any advice to anyone who's in the business, especially in Germany, to look at the value chain all the way through to the end, because it's going to matter. This is one of the biggest mistakes that was made here in America, and now it's becoming self-corrective. So inputs do matter. Of course, it sounds self-serving because I'm a guy who does it, but we've been doing this for 25 years. We understand how to manipulate that plant in every phase of its development. So please really be careful with bonus your cultivators and make sure the inputs that you're putting in deliver the goods at the end.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. This has been an education. I thought I knew something about what's going on in Germany. I didn't know anything. I really appreciate, Mike, also you coming in from a non-German perspective. But I
learned a lot today. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, we want to
absolutely,
do it
guys.
Too, Constantin, and we so appreciate your valuable time. I know how busy you are, Constantin. I know how difficult it was to make the time. So thank you so much. We'll be back to our viewers soon. This has been a great episode with BigMike from Advanced Nutrients and Dr. Constantin van der Groeben from DEMECAN, the managing partner. Thanks both to these gentlemen for this update on Germany, and we'll hear again from them soon.
Thank you, guys.
Yep. See you.
Thank you very much.